Diane Camacho is founder and president of DLC Consulting Services. Diane has spent more than 30 years as a legal manager in firms of various sizes. She started DLCCS in 2013 and has consulted with small firms around the country on a multitude of management and operational issues, including law firm startups. She speaks in the legal community on issues such as operations, IOLTA accounting, legal software, and starting new firms. In addition, she teaches law office management at San Francisco State University. Diane is a certified legal manager and holds a degree in organizational behavior and leadership from the University of San Francisco. She has a passion to help attorneys and their staff become more efficient. She believes attorneys should practice law, not spend their time in the weeds of running their businesses. Her experience ranges from office build-outs and moves to new technology implementations and law firm startups. Her email is diane@dlccs.com. She welcomes any questions you may have.
Hello, my name is Diane Camacho and I own DLC Consulting Services. And we, with the Center for Continuing Education, are putting on this session today, 10 Foolish Ways Law Firms Lose Big Money. So we're just going to walk through these. Decision paralysis, keeping unproductive or caustic employees, hiring when employees tell you to, unknowingly subsidizing lateral partners, not understanding firm numbers, ineffective marketing spend, trust accounting, not customizing your software, skimping on training, and not changing a bad decision quickly. So we all know that attorneys and owners of law firms have to make decisions all the time, constantly about everything. Sometimes it's difficult for leaders to make these decisions with everything coming at them as quickly, and there's so much information, and they want to make the perfect decision, and and there's a lot of things that people are making decisions about that really aren't bet the firm decisions, whether we should wear jeans in the office, whether we should purchase new software, whether we should post this ad. All of these decisions are made, and they need to be made relatively quickly. Obviously, purchasing new software is going to take more information, but it's very rare, and I don't think I've ever seen it where a law firm is making a decision that is going to make the firm go under or keep the firm afloat. They're decisions that need to be made for a lot of different reasons. And the causes usually are insecurity. The people making the decisions just really aren't secure about what their decision is going to be. They're not comfortable. Maybe they're thinking they're being judged. Maybe they, don't trust the information they're given. They don't trust the people that are giving it to them. There's, perfectionism is always in here for attorneys. We want to do everything perfectly. We don't want to get anything wrong. Sometimes there's just too many options coming at you, and you just can't decide which one from the other one is the right option for you. And when we're under stress, it's difficult to make good decisions. And law firms are very stressful, and people leading law firms are under even more stress than other people working in law firms. So what I recommend is to stop spending so much time making decisions. If you have a vision and goal, even if it's a general feeling of where you want the firm to go. It doesn't have to be written in blood and posted on your walls. But as a partnership, you know that you're trying to grow this practice area, or you want to bring your firm up to the current technology, or you want to open a new office, whatever it is, you have certain visions or goals for that year, hopefully. If not that, you need to start with that. And then if you're in the middle of making a decision, start thinking, does it support our vision and values and goals? Is this decision going to lead us where we want to go? Can we afford it? Do we have the money to afford it? Is it going to improve profitability, or is it going to improve culture, which is so important right now? And what's going to happen if you don't do it? Is it going to, you're going to lose employees, you're going to bankrupt the firm, all of these things. If you have a target, making your decisions based on that target become a lot easier. And stop wasting your time in discussion. So you get into a partner meeting and you're talking about it again and again and again, and you're asking for more information. Well, tell me about this one. You're asking for another opinion. You're talking to your peers. Just decide. Just decide. If you can't decide and you constantly talk about it and talk about it and talk about it, stop talking about it. Put it aside. There's probably 10 other decisions you need to make. Have that decision that's weighing on you out of your brain and away from your capacity to think and make decisions. Just put it on the back burner for a while and move on to other things, and then come back to it when you're fresh. Sometimes just pounding at the same decision for 6 months is not useful either. So if you have your vision and goals, make your decision based on those. If you can't make a decision, table it for a while. Have somebody else make it, and just follow that decision. In some way, make the decision. You are going to lose credibility and respect as a leader if you don't make decisions. Keeping unproductive or caustic employees. We all have this. We all fall into this kind of trap in a way. And a lot of times it's fear. Well, this person knows everything. If I get rid of them, nobody knows what they do or how they're doing it. Sometimes it's loyalty. The employee's been with you for 30, 35 years, but they aren't meeting the current requirements of the position. You want to be liked. You don't want to be the person that fires everybody. And the company culture. When you start having these difficult discussions and you start looking at your unproductive employees, it can really affect the company culture. And you need to be very careful of that. What you want to do is you want to start with a really good job description. And I know people don't like to hear this. And I know it's another one of those things you have to create. But having a good job description that can evolve will help you manage employees. And those job descriptions, again, support the vision and goals of the firm. They can change. Job descriptions can change. But you want to make sure that they support the firm, that they give the employees growth opportunities. They're consistent. You have the same job description for all your paralegals at a certain level. They have to be realistic. They have to be, it's like a goal. They have to be realistic and attainable. You can't just put things in there that they need to learn this software in 3 months and be training everybody else on it, or they need to be able to handle a trial on their own within 6 months of coming to the firm. You have to be realistic. And we always like to say there should be some good citizenship elements to it. You have to be nice, you have to be respectful, you have to speak respectfully. You have to do your share of things that need to be done. If you're a partner and you need to divvy up tasks, that partner needs to take care of the tasks they're assigned. Same with associates, same with all staff. Everybody's asked to do a little bit more at some point or another to help the firm. Maybe it's drafting training material or something like that. That is kind of over and above. And if somebody's always willing to do that versus I don't want to do it, I don't have time to do it, it's a stupid thing to do, that's good citizenship too. So you want to make sure that there's something in your job description that you can manage toward, and the soft skill or however is good citizenship. That's one of the things that's left out a lot of times, and then you don't have any way to kind of manage it. Hiring when your employees tell you to. Now, what I mean is people coming into you saying, "Oh, I'm really busy. I just can't get it done. I'm just so busy. Oh my goodness, I can't take on another thing. I can't take on another case. I can't, I can't finish this project. I just have so much to do. I can't get it all done." This happens a lot, and we need to make sure that we're very careful about hiring when the employees tell you they're busy. Some of the causes are people look busy. They seem like they look busy. They're, always at their desk working, and they come into work on time. Sometimes you don't really know what people are doing. And now with the work from home situation, you really may not know what people are doing. You're really busy. You don't have time to monitor other people. You don't want to lose anyone. So you don't want to make somebody feel like they're not being listened to, or their issues aren't important. So you're afraid that you're going to lose somebody if you don't get somebody to help that person. And again, that comes down to trust. You trust what they're saying. You trust that they're busy when they're saying they're busy, and you want to trust them. But you need to make sure that, and we're going to get to this a little bit later, you know what your numbers are, you know what your expectations are, and you understand where and who people are getting work from. So if you're talking an associate, are they getting work from 4 different attorneys? Really, what are they getting from those attorneys? Talk to the attorneys and really get clear on what work they're giving to that person. Sometimes attorneys expect a little bit too much. They need to give the people that are working for them a little bit more time to do things, and so that they can coordinate what they're doing. So you need to really look at when when employees come and they say they're really busy, you need to understand what that means and understand what they're doing. Either you do, or somebody that you trust, the legal manager or another partner or somebody, needs to understand what they're doing. And if in fact they are busy, and if in fact they are productive. Remember, busy doesn't mean productive. Another way that we have seen law firms lose a lot of money is by unknowingly subsidizing lateral partners. So one of the ways that law firms grow is they hire lateral partners. And a lot of times they say, okay, you're going to come and we're going to give you 30, 40, 50% of your receipts. Thinking, well, if they don't collect it, they don't get paid. And it's a fair way to do it. It costs you maybe 50% or 60% of what you expect them to bring in to maintain the office and support their practice. But what we have to do is we have to consider a lot of different things. If we're looking at lateral partners and we get down close to making decisions, you need to look at how long they've been at their last firm or firms. Are they 3 years, 3 years, 3 years, 3 years? That's a red flag. You have to know what their billable hour rates are and what they actually charge. What is their realized hourly rates? If they say, oh, my hourly rate is $5.50, but they do flat fee, or they give discounts all the time, or they wait until the end of the year to collect, so they knock off 20% of the bills, their hourly rate goes down substantially. And what their collection rate is. Are they collecting 100% of what they bill? Most of us don't. Are they collecting 80% of what they bill? You have to understand that. You have to know that. And this is information that you should be able to get prior to making any decisions. Cost of a practice. You have to understand what it costs for that particular practice. If you're talking about bringing on an IP attorney and you don't have any IP attorneys, there's a lot of costs related to IP renewals, maintenance, there's special software, there's special calendaring. There's a lot of different things that go into the cost of that practice versus the cost of an estate planning practice. And being enough for them doesn't mean it's enough to make the firm profitable. So they may be fine collecting 50% of what they bill, and they bill 300,000 a year, but it may cost you more than 150 to house and feed them. And you have to run a business. You are running a business. Let me give you an example of something that we've seen in the past. So you have a lateral partner and you decide they're going to get 30% of their collections. So we're thinking they're bringing in, they're working 1,400 hours, and maybe, 1,200 hours is really what they're making. And their hourly rate is 500, and the lowest is 350. So their billable, we calculate, is 1.2. And if they're getting 30%, they are, making almost 400,000, and the firm is making almost 900,000. That looks like a really great calculation. This looks very profitable, and you make the decision to go. Then reality comes in, and the average billable rate for a partner is 400, and their actual billable hours are 1,200. The average billable rate for the associate is 300, and their actual hours are 1,000. So the value of their billable hours is 750, not 1.2. Then they write down 10%. So then you take off 75,000. So they've actually billed 675,000. And they collect about 90%, I'm sorry, 85% in the first 90 days. Now, we know if you don't collect your money within the first 90 days, the chances of you collecting it are almost nil, unless you have a probate or a PI case, something like that. But normal practices, if you don't collect it in 90 days, you're probably not going to collect it. So they collect 85% of it. So they actually collect $573,000. And 30% of that is 172,000. And this is fine for the partner that comes in. But 70% of that practice is $401,000. And the cost of one associate plus the salary plus benefits is going to come out of the $401,000. So the firm profit is $256,000. And everything that comes out of there is everything that's non-billable. You've got non-billable staffing, rent, software, things that just are not directly billed to this person. So $256,000 is a lot different than $882,000. You don't find this out. This doesn't come to light until at least a year later, sometimes longer than that. And then it takes, a year to talk to them and try and get them up, get them up to speed, change their billing rates, whatever. And then by the third year, you're getting them out. So that's where the 3 years comes in. If they're going 3 years, 3 years, 3 years, that's a bad sign. But people do this, partners do this all the time without really understanding their numbers, not understanding what it costs to run their practice, and not understanding what profitability they would like to have or what profitability they need in order to sustain the partnership. So it's very important to know your numbers. This is something that I talk about all the time. Know your numbers, know your numbers. And when I'm talking about knowing your numbers, I'm not talking about the profit and loss or the balance sheet. You know, that's for tax purposes. That's not really for running your business. Your numbers include a lot of different things, and you need to have the right software and the right customization to get this information. So you want to know the realization rate of cases and employees. What that means is what actually comes in, what actually is collected for the cases and the employees. Not what's billed, not what they're supposed to bill, not what they billed last year, what they're currently billing versus what you're currently collecting. Utilization rate for billers. This is really important because if you don't know how much it costs to house and feed, if you will, a biller, you don't really know what it's going to cost. And you want to know what you expect from them as far as what they're billing or what their production is. And then you need to know what's really happening. So let me move on and we'll come back to this a little bit. The firm's operating ratio, meaning how much does it cost for the firm to earn $1? Does it, so this is relatively easy to look at your profit and loss and say, okay, so we brought in 500,000 and it costs us 250,000. Our operating ratio is 50%. That's a good operating ratio. That's a very good operating ratio. So know what that is, because if it changes, and it will, you want to be aware of it and you want to know why it's changing, for good or bad. You want to know how much the write-offs are costing you. A lot of times people write things off that really don't have to be written off. For instance, we were working with a client and we were looking at some of their ratios and their numbers, and we noticed that one associate had a lot of his time written off. So we went to the partner and said, why are you writing off so much of his time? Is he not doing good work? What's going on? And he goes, well, he's new, so we just feel like we can't bill all of his time. And I said, he's been here over 6 months. How long are you going to deduct his time? So time went on and the partner wasn't really paying attention to the fact that he had been here 6 months. So he was probably doing things a lot faster. And so he should have been billing for all his time. And I really caution anybody about writing off time. The reason that a junior associate is being billed at a junior rate is because it's going to take him longer to do things. And because she doesn't know as much as a more senior person. So you've already changed the billing amount because of the skill level. And then you're going to write it off too. So be really careful with your write-offs. Sometimes people are just, well, they're not going to pay that, or that's a lot, or I think it's too much, or it took me too long. Did it? Does the client think that? If you want to give them a courtesy discount, give them a courtesy discount and say it's a courtesy discount. Don't write off amounts before they even see them. They don't know you're giving them a discount. Okay, so Be very, very careful of write-offs, and write-offs need to be monitored. I've seen them run rampant in firms when they aren't being approved. If you're working in a large firm, there are no write-offs that don't get approved by a managing partner or the leader of the practice group, or somebody has to approve every write-off. That's because it costs the firm money. So be very careful with your write-offs. 90% of the time, they're really not necessary. And then you need to really follow your AR. Firms that collect their AR are profitable. If you don't collect what you bill, you're doing nonprofit work. And you're probably doing nonprofit work for people you don't want to do nonprofit work for. Why haven't you collected this money after 90 days? There are statistics all over the place, and I didn't even look them up, about not being able to collect 100% of your bill after 90 days. So you need to know what's happening with your AR over 90 days. And you need to look, is it always one type of client? Is it always one partner? Is it always one practice area? And then you need to decide how you're going to handle that. And a lot of small firms bill against their retainer and then have the retainer replenished. This helps, but if they're not going to pay, they're not going to pay, right? They just aren't even going to replenish their retainer. So you have to have a way to have an agreement to charge their credit card once a month, or somehow get get your fees paid. But be very, very tight with your AR. If you're in a practice area where you can stop working for them if they haven't paid you, make that very clear in your cover agreement, your engagement agreement, and stick to it. If you're requiring a retainer of $5,000 and it's gone, get it back. Don't just go, oh, it doesn't matter. This is really important. And a lot of times your accounting department doesn't have the authority to ask for it, or to send out multiple reminders or communicate. So you need to be very clear about how you're collecting your money, who's collecting, excuse me, who's collecting your money, and what you allow somebody else to do. And if you want to do it yourself, you have to do it. You have to do it. None of us like to do it. And then you really need to know the full cost of each employee. That kind of goes back to subsidizing lateral partners. What is the cost of this employee? Does this lateral partner churn through support staff? Churn through associates? If they're coming over and they have a really big practice and they're not bringing any staff with them, why not? Why don't the staff want to come with that person? Things like that. And you need to know what it costs for employees, meaning, and I don't get down to the floor space of their office, but I want to know what it costs for their parking and their MCLE and their benefits and their training or special classes, or everything that it costs to have an employee. Now, one of the things that's great about web-based or SaaS software is they do bill you monthly. And it's annoying that they bill you monthly and you feel like you're paying too much because you're paying forever. But you can say, okay, if I add a new employee, it's going to cost me $400 a month for software and $200 a month for IT. And that's about right. If you want to have good, up-to-date, current software for your folks that will allow them to be mobile, it's $350 to $400 per month, depending on the practice area. And then you're thinking, if you have an outside IT person that is monitoring and taking care and is your help desk and all of that, that's maybe a couple of $100 more a month. So that's automatic. You know that. Don't skimp on that. That's where people get frustrated and leave. And if you're looking at the billable hour, that's what, 1.5 billable hours a month per person. And if they're billing their own hours, it's their time, however you figure it out. But don't skimp on software and support. That's the lifeblood of your firm. And then look at your expense categories on your profit and loss and in your budget and see which of those would go down if you didn't have as many employees. Your professional liability insurance will go down depending on how many employees you have. And you can talk to a broker or at the end of the year when you're renewing, get an idea of what it costs. Oops, I'm doing it again. Understand your expense categories. I've gone into profit and loss statements and everything is office expense. Their office expense, their supplies, their library, their software, everything is glommed into one or two categories. That's great. It's easy for your accounting department, but it's really hard to manage your money if you don't know really where you're spending it. And I'll guarantee if you look at your profit and loss, 95% of you, unless you're doing it yourself, aren't going to be able to identify what is going into each category. You should know this. You should have a budget. Very, very easy to create a budget. It doesn't have to be onerous. You just look at what you spent the last few years and you know what it costs for employees. And if you're adding employees, you add that and you put it in a 12-month period. If you are paying all of your insurance renewals in 1 month, that's a big hit. If you're paying, your 401k contributions needs to be in another month, kind of what your big expenditures are during the year, have those in your budget. So in March, you have to come up with X amount of dollars more than you normally do in order to make your net that month. Cash position. This is really important, and this is, in a way, what allows us to sleep at night as a business owner, any business owner. Do I have enough money to pay my bills? That's your cash position. And you should look at that all the time. That doesn't mean, do I have enough money in the bank to pay my bills? It means, do I have enough money this week to pay my bills this week? Or do I have enough money this period, if you're doing it every 2 weeks, to meet payroll? So what you have in your bank, what you expect to come into your bank, and what your expenses are that period of time. And then if it doesn't look like you're going to meet your requirements, you can figure out what you're going to do. If you're going to pull from the line for, a few months, if you're going to get back to your AR and start collecting some of those things, however you're going to manage your cash. Sometimes we've had small firms have to bill twice a month. So they might bill A through M on the first of the month and then N through Z on the second half of the month, so that they have money coming in 2 times during the month. So it's not all at one time and you have to manage your cash through the month. Sometimes that helps with cash flow. But knowing your cash position and knowing it I like mine every week. Sometimes I don't get it done every week, but I like to know that I have enough money to pay my bills. That's really important. And oftentimes it's not looked at. Attorneys go and look at what they have in the bank. That's great, but it's not really accurate, as we all know from managing our own personal accounts. And your monthly break-even point is really helpful to know. And a lot of people know this, and that's really kind of what they go by. But if it's going to cost you $350,000 per month to run your law firm, you need to know that. And if you're collecting $300,000 a month, you know that you have an issue. And if you need to collect more certain times of the month, or you need to open an account so that you can put money aside for your 401k contributions throughout the year, then go ahead and do that. But know your break-even point per month. That's really helpful. Again, these are things that will help you sleep at night. Now, if we talk a little bit about some of the terms that I was using just a moment ago. Some of this is duplicative, but I wanted to put this in the slide so it would be helpful. The realization rate of case types and employees. So the difference between the client hours billed and the client hours collected. This is also a realization rate, and it depends on how you look at it. I personally like to know the difference between the hours somebody worked and the hours that were collected. Because again, remember we had that write-off situation. So if you're writing off hours, you really aren't getting a true a realization rate of the hour that was worked. So I like to see the hour worked and the hour collected for that client. And we like to see it at 90%. Utilization rates for billers is the difference between the billable hour requirement and the actual billing. So if you're hearing from everybody how busy they are, and you have a paralegal billing 70 hours a month and an attorney billing 100 hours a month, and they're saying they're busy, why? Are they doing administrative things? Are they taking too long? Are they not working the hours you expect? You need to understand why people aren't making their billable hour requirements. Is there not enough work? There's a lot of different ways, a lot of different reasons. One of the things that might be happening is they're working from home, so they're not getting assignments because partners assign work and senior associates assign work to people that they know and trust. And if they don't see people in the office and they haven't really spent time with them and gotten to know them, yet somebody else is coming into the office all the time and it's right next door, they're going to walk to the person next door and give them their assignments. So when we're talking about being in the office and being remote and hybrid and all those things, we need to really understand and communicate what is required of people that are working from home. They have to get work, just like in the office. They had to walk around and say, hey, I have some time. Do you need help? They need to make those calls. They need to reach out to those partners and tell them that they have capacity. It's their responsibility to meet their billable hours. And that has to be communicated. Anyway, that was a little tangent. And then the firm's operating ratio, I talked about that earlier. Good is to see greater than 35% so that you're not spending more than 35 cents on the dollar to collect the dollar. The dollar amount of the write-offs in the billing process, we talked a little bit about that. HR over 90 days, full costs. I think that I went through these already. Some of these were on the previous slide, but I wanted to put in some of these things up here. Okay. Another thing that happens is we're spending money on marketing, and there's huge push from the marketing industry to have law firms on some kind of monthly retainer, some kind of monthly monitoring and reporting on the, marketing spend. If you don't understand the reports and information, you need to learn to understand them. You need to have somebody in your office be responsible for understanding those numbers. How much are you spending on your marketing efforts? Okay, that's easy. We spent XYZ. This one, we spent $1,000 per month. How many new leads? And how many new leads are basically coming from this SEO? So you need to track your leads. You need to say this lead came in from a client referral, or this lead came in from a native search in Google, or it came in from an ad in Google or something. You need to know what you paid $1,000 for, what leads go into this. So you got 25 leads for $1,000. Oh, I just messed this all up. You got 25 leads total for the month. Then you say where they came from. Two for anyway, you got 2 clients for $1,000 and their value is $2,000 each. So again, you need to know the average value of your clients. And then, oh, I'm walking this through this. I'm sorry. So, where do the clients come from? How many of them are new clients? How many good clients? You know, getting a client, a lot of people say, well, I get a lot of activity from my website, but I very rarely get any good clients. Don't pay it. Don't pay for it. And again, know your value, know the value of your clients. If your average client is $10,000 and you're paying $500 to get that client, that's a pretty good return on your investment. But if your average client is $2,000 and you're paying 500, is that what you want to do? It really depends on you. It really depends on you, how much time you have, how many new clients you're getting. If you're getting lots and lots of new clients, you probably don't want to spend $500 per client. If you're getting 2 clients a month, maybe $500 is reasonable. But you have to understand this. So you pay $1,000, you get 25 leads, 2 become clients, and the value of those clients is $2,000. That means that you paid $500 per client. You have to know that and understand that. In order to do that, you have to have the right tracking mechanisms. Most of the software out there now will help you track it. You have to make sure that you have the right information going into your software so that you can get the right information out. Managing the return on your investment on marketing is very, very important. It can be a big spend, and sometimes it's worth it, and sometimes it's not. So be very careful about just throwing money out. And if somebody says, well, for $3,000 a month, we are going to monitor, we're going to check your SEO, we're going to check what words are coming up in native searches and make sure that those are in your posts. We're going to do a newsletter for you. You know, these all these wonderful things that you think they're going to do for you for this $3,000, $4,000, $10,000 a month. You better know that it's worth it, because you can spend a lot of money on marketing and not have any idea if you're getting your the bang for your buck. So be careful about this. It doesn't have to be you. Remember, if you're the manager, it doesn't have to be you. This can be the receptionist that tracks this. If you have the right information, whoever's putting in the lead information into your system has to understand it and put it in there. They can run the reports and tell you what this is. But somebody should be monitoring this, and you should make sure that you're getting what you pay for with your marketing spend. Trust accounting. I can't tell you, even if you don't get audited by the state and have to pay a fine because you're not operating the way they want you to, it will cost you a lot of money to backtrack and get your trust accounting reconciled. I have sessions about this. I do sessions about trust accounting. There in California, there's some great new tools on the bar website that will help you manage your trust accounting, but you have to get a handle on your trust accounting. And having a bookkeeper say, yes, you're balanced, you're reconciled, is not good enough. You have to be able to report exactly how much money you have in the bank for each client. And that needs to match what you tell your client. Meaning, if you are reporting on your client bills what they have in trust, and your client software is Smokeball, if the balance in Smokeball doesn't match the bank and QuickBooks, you have a problem. And you don't know where it is because you haven't done it for so long. Trust accounting is a huge money suck. It's very easy to manage. People are very nervous about managing it. It's not hard to manage. And software now does so much work for you. You just have to know what needs to be managed and make sure it's happening, getting the right reports and understanding what is happening with the trust money. Enough said about trust. Not customizing your software. There's a lot of software out in the industry, especially for small firms, that is, quote, plug and play. We'll get you set up. It's all included in the monthly subscriptions. We'll import your information and we will do the training for you. Well, that's all well and good, but it's just not true. I don't know how many of you have tried to roll out software without help from a consultant like myself or from somebody on your staff that really understands the software and gets in there and customizes it and has it do what you want it to do. They can import information weird and wrong. They can import everything, but oh, we didn't have a field for that, so that didn't come in. There's all kinds of things. And then their training is, 30 minutes, and then there's some videos. You need to have somebody live walk you through your first billing cycle, at least your first billing cycle. You need to have people live training and personalize that training. Now, with remote training, it's harder to train remotely. It just is than having somebody come into your office. What I recommend and what we do is we'll do the training remotely, but on the day that things get rolled out, we want to be in your office for a day or two. There is no substitution for somebody coming around and making sure that things get installed properly right there on the first day and helping people do things that they do on a regular basis. But now they're trying to learn something new and trying to support clients, and it's very stressful to do that on the first and second day. So that's the training piece. The customizing piece is understanding what you need to get out of the software. So customizing ideas, docketing, a program that calculates dates for the firm. There are so many firms that I know, and it always surprises me that are still what I call counting dates. They go into Outlook, they know when the holidays are, and they kind of count the dates that this, it's 30 and then 15 and then whatever. And then they count the dates and they put them in to their calendars and they give them to everybody. There are very reasonably priced software systems that now do that. You purchase the county or the court rules that you want. Sometimes some systems, they come all together. Some you have to purchase individually. And you put in the court, and then you put in that the trigger date is the complaint got filed. And then it kicks back all of the relevant court dates that associate with that date, and it will put them on the calendar for you. You can add people and all of this kind of thing. If you don't have something like that, you really should look into it, because that is a super time saver. Your professional liability insurance carrier will appreciate that. And then what you need to do is you need to look at them and make sure that they look and are reasonable and that they are right. The other thing is automation. There's a lot of talk about automation, and there has been automation for a long time. What's changed more recently is you can now automate documents using your practice management software. So if you put in, again, the right fields in your design of your system, your practice management system, you have more opportunity to automate your documents because it's going to be a template that's going to pull information from your practice management software and create a Word document, a PDF, an Excel, I guess, if you want to do an Excel. So if you're not doing this, you should be looking into this and finding a system that can help you do this. This is also, they also have court forms that they keep up to date, many of them, and they in California there's a rules, I'm sorry, a forms subscription you can buy from CEB, I think it is. And it comes out once a year and you get a disc and maybe now you can download it, but it isn't constantly updated and it isn't web-based. So it's a lot harder to use. So many of the firms that we work with are moving into these document automation platforms that also have the court forms. So look for that as well. Again, the court forms associated with your practice management software will feed in the court, the client, the opposing party, the opposing counsel, the hearing date, all of these different things will automatically get populated. So you should really be looking at automation. And a lot of times we don't have time or we don't want to spend the money or whatever it is. It's, oh, that looks really neat, but I don't have time for that. Well, hire somebody because it will save you hours upon hours upon hours. And if you're doing flat fee work, this is the way to go. And if you're having paralegals do certain work, this is a great way to make sure that everything gets done consistently in the whole firm, not just associate, not just paralegals, that everything looks the same and feels the same. And then macros have been out for a long time as well. These are different than document automation systems. Macros are ways to consistently and easily format documents. So it opens up a blank document, it opens up a blank pleading, and then you feed the information into it. That's a macro. It sets up your outline format. It has your signature blocks, those kinds of things where you click a couple of buttons and that gets dropped in for you. These are sometimes very hard to find somebody that does this well. Sometimes these are expensive. In my opinion, if you wanted to choose between automation and macros, I would go with automation at this point because you can put those formats into your automation program and have that fill in more information, not just come up blank. You always really need to remember that it's not what you put into your software, it's what you need to get out. So you need to make sure that you're putting the right information in so that you can get the right information out. Like the marketing. Where are your marketing leads coming from? Um, who referred that person? If that's a good lead, how many of those leads are turning into clients? Those kinds of things. That's the information you need to get out. And a lot of times when you're looking at software, the salespeople are showing you how pretty it is and how easy it is to enter your time and this and that. And I've seen firms get sold on software that looks really great in the front end, but your accounting department cannot produce the bills because you didn't get a software program that allowed for split billing, for um, split origination, for whatever special needs you have. The accounting system that is associated with that pretty, look how great it is to enter time doesn't meet the firm's requirements. And this is happening a lot with folks leaving server-based systems. The server-based systems have been out for 40 years, maybe a little longer, and they have corrected a lot of mistakes. They have corrected things. They have evolved and become what they are. When we move into a web-based or a SaaS program, many of these programs have only been around for 10 years, 15 years, maybe 15 years now. They haven't come as far as the server-based systems, and you have to understand that it is going to take some time to have all of the features that you need and all of the things that you need. What you're going to need to decide is what's the most important to you, and are those features included in that software? But you have to understand what you get out of the software and how you get your reports and how you get your billing information and how you look at your time entry and all of those kinds of things. That's important. It's more important than how pretty the font is and how pretty the button that you click is. The other thing that we try to do, and sometimes it's just not possible, but is inputting information in one location that flows to different things. So things are either integrated or it's all in one platform, so that when you're opening up a new client and you're putting that person's information in there, it's nobody else is also putting it into their contacts and then putting it into the billing software and putting it over here. I don't even need to tell you how problematic that can be, because they have one change and it only gets changed in one system, and then the bills are going to the wrong person and the client is upset because they told you. So having one location or as few locations as possible for information is going to be really important as well. And then there's the skimping on training. And I kind of mentioned this when I was talking about customization. Training is so important. What we learn is what we need to do the first few days of a new software rollout. And oftentimes we never learn anything after that. And if you're sending out videos to people like, oh, I want you to watch a video once a week and learn a new feature, or I found this new feature, here's a video on how to do it. That's great, but it doesn't work. It works for some people. It certainly doesn't work for everyone. And if somebody is doing something the long way and it takes an extra minute, just an extra minute, uh, to do it, and they do it 5 times a day, over a year, that's 20 hours. It doesn't sound like much when it's like, oh, it just takes me an extra minute. It's just 3 more clicks. People that are designing software do not understand how those of us in legal hate clicks. It's just another click. We hate that. I hope you hate it as much as I do, and try to figure out ways to get trained and utilize your system as effectively as possible. So some training tips. Train when you get the new software. That's obvious. Normally you train, maybe the day before, maybe it's the morning it's rolled out, maybe it's the week before, and then train again in 3 months on the same software. And then train again in 6 months on the same software. Not only do people not learn everything the first 3 months, new features come out all the time. With your web-based programs, they're constantly upgrading, they're constantly making changes, they're constantly putting fixes in, and what didn't work 6 months ago is probably going to work now. You have to keep up on your training. It's money very well spent. And be sure to identify your super users. There's probably a couple of younger associates and a paralegal and a couple of secretaries, maybe the accounting person. There's people that are going to get that software and learn it and know it inside out way before everybody else. And make sure that those people are identified and that people know that they can ask them a question. You don't want your people spending 30 minutes trying to figure out something on the software if there's somebody down the hall that can show them how to do it in a minute. So make sure that you have those super users. If you want to give them more training, by all means, give them more training. Don't pay for attorneys to sit in a classroom style training. If they're going to be resistant, they're not going to learn everything. They are going to be looking at their phone. I have never had success making attorneys sit in a classroom for sometimes it's been 2 hours. Nope, this is what we do. They have to go through it. It's a requirement. They have to sit there. They aren't paying attention. They've brought their pre-bills in and they're modifying their pre-bills. They're looking at their laptops for their emails, or they're looking on their phone for their emails. It's not worth it. It's not worth losing 2 hours of billable time for that person when you can pay a trainer $100 to sit with them for 30 minutes and train them on what they do. So typically what I'll do is the attorneys are certainly welcome, and there are going to be attorneys that want to come in and want to learn everything about the software. But the people that never answer and never come in, when you have somebody on the floor the first few days of rollout, you can have them go into the office, sit down and say, hey, I just want to show you what you do, what you need to know about this new software. Tell me what you do typically in a day. If they're just pulling up documents and reading them and emailing them back, that's one thing. But if they are creating new pleadings and using macros and using the document automation, those are different things. So spending time showing them how to do their typical tasks is going to be well worth it versus having them sit resentfully somewhere for 2 hours and not get credit for it on their hours requirement. Get them one-on-one training and try and have it live and try and have it in your office. Again, we all skimp on training. We think, oh, da 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 da. But the training, if you're not getting training, if you're spending $50,000, $100,000 on a rollout and a document transfer and all of this, spend the few $1,000s on training and do it consistently. Make it a policy of the firm. Have quick tips at the meetings. They're in person, usually they're in person, and somebody can have 5 minutes for the quick tip of the month. Maybe somebody else wants to share a quick tip. Somehow keep the interest up, keep showing them new and better ways to do things. And create a culture where people share what they've learned. Again, having a culture where somebody learned a great way to do something and they send out a quick instruction sheet or they do a quick video and share it, that's important. And make that be okay and make that be a good thing, not a, why do they think they know everything? I already knew how to do that. Well, there's somebody that didn't. And again, have good new hire training. Have it be consistent, documented, and don't rush it. Everything we do now is on our computer. It's different now. You have to spend the time and effort to train and retrain and do new training. And you have to give them time to do that. So, not changing a bad decision quickly. This, again, can, as a leader, it can erode people's trust in you and damage the culture of the firm. A bad decision. We all talk about hiring slowly and firing quickly. deciding that you're going to change the office hours, deciding that you're going to have a fully remote office, um, deciding that you're going to reduce the holidays, which has happened. Um, any of those decisions that you're making, if they are bad and you know they are bad, you need to change them. Sometimes you can't change them as easily as others, but you need to stop, reassess, and try something different. Software can be a really big problem. And before you give up on software, I suggest that you make sure that you are hiring somebody for customization and you are really paying attention to the training. Making a change into a new software is very expensive. It's expensive to assess it, to implement it, to convert information. It's very expensive. You want to make sure that you do the right thing. Sometimes, and probably all the time, it's not going to do everything for everyone. Some things are going to be more difficult. Most things for the firm are going to be easier, better, and more streamlined. Maybe you need to get some customized reports created. Maybe you need to have another couple of days where somebody's on site doing some training. Maybe you have to have monthly lunch and learns with a trainer where people bring in their, and it can be a Zoom, people bring in their problems and the trainer goes through how to do things easier and more efficiently. Maybe you need to just fire that person. You can't change attitude. I say you hire attitude and train for skills. Now, we obviously don't always have that luxury. We have to get somebody that can, quote, hit the ground running. But if you have somebody that's in your firm that is caustic, they are causing cultural and morale problems. If you get rid of somebody that's caustic, I will guarantee you there will be people that will be very, very happy and relieved and have a lot less stress because somebody's doing their job, somebody's avoiding them, somebody is not working for them or taking assignments from them. You know, there are all these different things that happen when you have a bad employee. You can get help, you can find new people, you can outsource things. Don't hold on to caustic people at the cost of running an efficient and profitable business. If you have a long-term employee, there are ways to help that person retire a lot of times in a very humane and respectful fashion. But if you've got folks that have been there for a very long time and are really holding up progress, you need to look at that. Those aren't quick, those aren't quick decisions, but it's another issue that we have currently is folks not making hard decisions that benefit the business because they're afraid. That costs a lot of money, and it costs people because people do leave because of that. Those are my 10 things, and I kind of went back and forth and all around. I hope that it was helpful. I hope that you learned something and can take something away from this. And thank you very much for your time.